So first of all, you can see that bridge is way, way up. And this guy virtually never uses the tremolo bar. So we're going to put a press fit block in there. So it'll essentially be a hardtail Strat when we're done. In this case, the customer wants to immobilize the tremolo system. And it's not the first time I've had that request. So you can see that press fit ash wedge, and the plate actually gently holds that down. So we've immobilized the tremolo system, so we keep the originality police at bay, because you could just take that out and put it back to stock in a few seconds. Well, we've done our reconnaissance, and there's multiple places where we've got high spots. And this guitar, it needs attention in a few different spots. So I normally do a quick check. I had one subscriber had asked, well, why don't you just go right to a short straight edge? Well, the reason I don't go right to a short straight edge is I use the longer straight edge, and quite frankly, I've been doing this by eye for so long I barely need that. But I do it for your sake to illustrate. I'll use a long straight edge just to get the overall lay of the neck right before we start this whole procedure. That last video, I made my way down through various lengths of gauges to sort of illustrate that the long straight edge doesn't really tell the story. You need a smaller one. This is the smallest one, which bridges 3 frets, and like I said, there's so many places on this fingerboard to do. I'd spend the next 45 minutes kind of showing you each one, but suffice it to say, this needs a fret dress. Well, it was nice to be able to just unscrew that roller nut and get it out of the way so we can do this fret dress. This guitar's got multiple spots all over the neck. Those frets are like razor blades. I mean, they're sharp enough to draw blood. Drop those pickups down out of the way so I can get the mask on there to protect the guitar while we're working on it. And we'll tighten up these machine heads. This is another little job, little detail, where you really need to proceed with caution. These are ultra-fine threads, very easy to strip. Those razor sharp fret ends, holy smokes, they would, I'm not exaggerating when I say they would draw blood. Not only draw blood, you'd be in for stitches. And again, like I've mentioned in those other videos, it's really more of kind of listening rather than looking. You hear the file go silent when you've arrived. When you are edge dressing, you're better off erring on the side of caution. You're better off to make that bevel a little too steep as opposed to a little too shallow. Because I've had guitars come into the shop where I've had to actually do a refret a couple of times, a complete refret, because someone had dropped that file to such a shallow pitch that the bevel went onto the string pad. Another tip, something to watch for. I'm liking the sound of that now. We've pretty well reached our mark. A little bit of resistance up here yet. There we go. Now we've arrived. Okay, the other side now. I actually put my hand over the headstock. This guitar is in mint condition. You don't want to put a breath mark on it. But I put my hand up here so that I'd rather hit my hand than hit the edge of that pristine headstock. But, you know, it's a fairly common problem that I address on a regular basis. I don't pull the neck off the guitar to do this work. The body's strapped down to the leather padded body platform, and then the thing's not shifting or wiggling or moving around while I'm working on it. Of course, I've masked off the pickups so that we don't get any filings. You don't want those anywhere near the magnets of the pickups. Just about there. Now we go underneath the crown of the fret all the way along the fingerboard. So now the only thing that is exposed is the fret itself. If you're doing a maple fingerboard and you want to do an immaculate job, you got to take that time to tape it off. We've relieved basically 100 pounds of tension off of that neck. So what do you think happens? The neck goes in a back bow. So we need to adjust that truss rod again now that the strings are off. And we need to check with our full length straight edge and get the lay of the neck as straight as we possibly can before we pick up the file. Here's the finale on this custom shop Strat. There'll be no extraneous buzzing now. This thing is... one word of caution, and I've cautioned my level 2 students from the college on this. I have that die grinder with the canvas wheel on it that I load up with jeweler's rouge and buff it out. And this pertains again to a maple fingerboard. Word of caution, let everything cool down before you peel that tape off. And you don't want to pull any lacquer. You've just seen the last couple of videos about how bad it can get when the lacquer comes off. There's definitely no issue of lifting on this one. Give it about 30 seconds, 40 seconds, let things cool off before you peel off that tape. Edge dress, level, crown, and polish are done. We'll just put that roller nut back in and start working on the setup. So I'll pull the pick guard off and we'll juice down those pots and that switch. And that's a done deal. There we go, our custom shop Strat. Edge dress, level, crown, and polish. I did actually drop the action down on that roller nut a little bit, took the shims out. Set up the pickups, intonation, sprayed the pots and switches. Yeah, so this was converted to a hardtail Strat. We got that press fit wedge in the back there of ash to immobilize it. And easily reversible at any time. We haven't altered the guitar from its original condition, so the originality police can relax. We can convert it back to mint condition original in a couple of seconds, if Jack so chooses. So this Strat is going back to Jack. Darcy got a perfect match to that headstock with the with that satin lacquer. Just a hint of tint in there, and it's a done deal. So he blew right over top of the frets. We'll let that sit for a couple of days and then very gently mask it off, buff it out, and this one will be back in action.